Welcome to the Bronco Podcast, everybody. I'm Ben alongside my colleague Reine. We are both graduate assistants here at the College of Business and Economics. And today we are sitting down with Debbi Long, who built alongside with her husband Tom one of Idaho's most recognizable outdoor businesses. Debbi is the co-owner of Cascade Raft and Kayak, the largest and longest running rafting outfitter on the Payette. Together, her and her husband run and operate an operation that takes thousands of guests down the river every summer, employs dozens of guides and staff at peak season, and has become a major player in the outdoor and recreation industry here in Idaho. For our COBE listeners, Idaho is one of the top-ranked states in the country for outdoor recreation as a share of state GDP. It is a $4.5 billion industry with a ton of opportunities right here in our own backyard. And I know a lot of students aren't aware of what kind of careers are available, so we're lucky enough to have one of the best here with us today. So thank you for coming down and joining us.
Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So could you take us back to your time in Sacramento?
Oh, boy. So we're living in Sacramento. My husband has a degree in the Hotel and Restaurant Administration, Oklahoma State University, which his grandfather was part of the professors and things like that. And so we went from Oklahoma State. We went corporate and to a company with restaurants, Lions Restaurant on the West Coast, and he quickly moved up the branches there. Then we figured, wow, if he's that valuable corporate, what would we do to have our own restaurants? So we had 3 restaurants. Sacramento, California, 3 sons, oldest one was 12. Tom comes home from work. I got a great idea. Let's move to Idaho. I'll be a kayak instructor. I said, what? That is the stupidest, dumbest, most irresponsible thing in the world. Who is going to buy tennis shoes? What about jeans? What about a car? What about college? We got 3 sons to raise. And we had a mentor that ate in our restaurant every day, breakfast and lunch. Dr. Cox says, Debbi, calm down. Just listen a sec. If you teach your boys to work hard, and like what they're doing, they can accomplish what they want to accomplish. And they went, really? I never had thought that, So we rolled the dice. We moved to Idaho. We joined Steve Jones had already started Cascade Raft. We added the kayak school. And in April of that first year, 1989, in April, the beginning of the second season, we had $400 to our family name, to it. That's all we had, and we didn't have all sorts of parents behind us and this and that and the other. We were just, saying, okay, we got this. Now the season is starting. So that was a few years ago, and it worked.
So you guys picked up everything specifically because your son said, hey, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
And moved.
And so we moved up here. The boys were kayakers. They did that for fun, through all of their youthful time. And in fact, we have 2 grandsons that are looking for 2028 Olympics, which are in the United States, in kayaking. So if that comes through, that is going to be a story. And so anyway, a separate story. But so we came and one of the funnest things was to bring our knowledge of hospitality and shove it alongside of a river. Your uniform is a T-shirt, shorts, ball cap. That's what you wore to work. But it was so enjoyable, and I have been thinking a lot about this recently. How I can't think of another set of guests that is funner to have that smile on their face at the end of the day than to take people rafting. Mm-hmm. Because, they arrive, they're a little bit worried, maybe afraid, maybe dad hasn't seen his wife and his kids for 2 weeks or whatever, and, okay, you guys, we're going to go have fun, maybe there's 3 generations, maybe there's, people that hardly even speak English. It doesn't matter. When you walk up, hi, welcome to Cascade Raft and Kayak, And so We can get them in clothing that is appropriate if it's cold outside, warm clothing. Drive them up and put them in the with their guide, and we teach and train our guides that this is not about you. This is about you creating fun for the 6 people in your raft.
The experience.
Yeah. And so they really hone in to the people that are on their raft. If Grammy's on their raft, it's quite different than if there's 4 18-year-olds. And if you got, a pad full of 18-year-olds, well, you might spin the raft around more and go where it's tougher and those type of thing. If it's Grammy, I always tell Grammy, I said, I don't like getting my hair wet, so sit by the guide and say, I don't want my hair wet. And you will not get your hair wet because the guide knows how to do that. So it's fun for the guides as well because they've got, the people are smiling and having a good time and no phones, no interruptions, and enjoying nature. And there's something about getting in the out of doors that brings your head back. Yeah. To where you want it. Whether that was 40 years ago or whether it's right now, it's the same.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's getting out. And boy, you see the birds flying together. And, they did the canyon yesterday, and there was a pile full of chipmunks. A bunch of chipmunks that were chasing them around. I mean, you can see, all sorts of wildlife, and then enjoy the water. And so when they get back to the raft company, our location on Highway 55, and I see them walking up, I can confidently say, did you have a good time?
And you always know
and
the
I
answer.
know, and they have the grin. I said, I saw your picture. Oh my gosh, and they go and they tell me about their story. Yeah. And it makes going to work fun. That's
and
beautiful. So that's why we enjoy it.
Yeah. So from California, what made you choose Idaho specifically, this area?
It had more, it has 31, the state of Idaho has 3,100 navigational river miles, more than anywhere else. And if you want to go see something cool, look that up on YouTube. And the state just did a huge thing on each stretch of river, including the Payette, including us, and did a huge marketing promotional just to share with the country, with everyone, about how many river miles we have. And so that's why we had vacationed up here a little bit, and so that's why we decided to come up here. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. But when we moved here from 84 down Eagle Road, there was one stop sign in Eagle. Yep. A little different.
Yep. Just a little bit different than what it's like today.
Right. Uh-huh. And when I see a lot of our guests obviously come from all over, but there's a fair share, from California. And but I grew up in California. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Southern Cal. I lived in Northern Cal. And when they're walking up, I oftentimes can tell Northern Cal from Southern Cal. So they're walking up and I say, welcome to Cascade Raft and Kayak. We are so glad you're here. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Star. And how long have you lived in Star? Well, 4 months. Where are you from? Well, California. And where in California? Because very likely I know something about it. And so anyway, I find out, where they're from, and we chit-chat a moment. And I say, we're so glad you're here. And they're going, really?
That's the first I've heard that.
Exactly. I said, we're so glad you're here. We love to share the Idaho out of doors with everyone. If I could just ask you one really small favor. Oh, what's that? And I said, remember why you left there and leave it there. And so I'm not being critical, or I'm not, but instead I'm just saying, and they go, oh yeah, you bet. We'll just leave that down there. I said, perfect. Now let's go rafting, and so then, the people that come bring word of mouth for all of you marketeers is still the number one way to increase your product or your business or whatever you want to call it, okay? Word of mouth is still it. And is it, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think that it's still, it's still very, very important, face to face.
If I'm not mistaken, that stretch of the Payette specifically has some of the best whitewater in the nation, right?
Correct. This June, we are having an international event, the North Fork Championship, where the top kayakers in the world are coming here to do the North Fork, and it's class 5, which means if something goes wrong, you're in a lot of trouble.
Right.
Okay, you can't commercially go. You couldn't have insurance to pay for commercial people to go do that stretch of river. It has to be individuals doing it on their own. And so, so the Norfolk Championship is going to come here, and it's great. But then we have calm stuff, like, the main payette, we call it the splash, a rapids just to, laugh and giggle. And you've got the North Fork Cabarton, the water's warm because the water comes from the top of the Cascade Reservoir. And so you can go back there with I just had I ran into a gentleman today that had his mom and dad come to town, and he's a rafter himself, but they came with us because they wanted the parents to feel comfortable. They did the Cabarton stretch, and the water's warm. You can splash, you can, dive in and all that kind of thing. The canyon, we call it the plunge. The plunge is class 3-4. You could have to swim. And so, but then we have a safety kayaker, and he'll go grab you and bring you back in, But for those people that want that much white water.
Right.
So all of it is right around our location on Highway 55, which is less than an hour from where we sit right here.
Yeah.
Again, another brilliant thing. Originally, we were in Garden Valley, and originally the company did just a lot of 2 and 3 day trips, overnight trips. And it was my husband who said, we got the time-pressed traveler. They don't have 3 days. Some of them do. But what about all those people that have a half a day, and now they're on their way to McCall, or a full day, and that's all they want to do? And I said, really? Well, okay. And so it was his genius that focused in on the half-day, full-day trip. And it worked. It really, really worked for us.
That's excellent. Well, yeah,
Go
go.
ahead.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you took this really big leap, moving from California, finding this amazing place, only having $400 to your family's name, and, just kind of putting it all out there. Was there a time where you were concerned that it wasn't going to work out? Was there a rough patch, or did it just kind of smooth sailing up to where we are right now?
We became substitute teachers in the
Okay.
We did that for a couple
there
years.
Was some,
So when we didn't have to substitute teach, the phone would ring and we would go like this, and whoever did that first doesn't have to go substitute teach. So we did that for a couple of winters, and then so then we became confident enough that we could get through the winter, and then we kind of opened up. We began practicing kayaking for the U.S. kayak team in Chile. And then there were people going, well, I want to go. So we started taking people to Chile in the wintertime. Mind you, it's summer. And down in Pucón, Chile, the north end of right by Patagonia. And so we've done that for 25 years, taking people down 2-week trips and all. And so we've kind of expanded it that way.
What did Cascade Raft and Kayak look like those first few years when you were ramping up?
Well, if I can be honest, the industry was quite different then. Raft guides were wild and woolly. I had a big argument with Outside Magazine that had the front cover about how the guide went and did some inappropriate things to one of the daughters on their raft trip. And this guy, Nike, had brought Outside Magazine to do a raft trip with us. And so I knew this guy, and he was a good friend, and I or a good acquaintance. I called him up. I said, what is this? That is horrible. Your front cover, this is going to sell your magazine? And that was the last that I was involved with, with Outside. And so to Tom and I, we wanted to be comfortable that our staff could be trusted. So we taught them what trust is. If you are underage and you drink beer, that's against the law. I don't care if another state, it could be fine. But we can't have all these kids around if they're doing illegal things. So if I just had a sip, they would say, sorry, you're going to sit in the office till someone comes and gets you, because we can't trust you if you can't follow the rules. Marijuana might be illegal in whatever state. Now, this is the past 40 years, mind you. This is not just the past few. It could be illegal in some place. It's not legal in the state of Idaho. We follow the rules. And by teaching that to our young staff, we have close to 80 right now coming back. I don't know all their names. We put their picture up on the walls and their names.
80 guides? 80 people or just employees?
80 staff.
Okay.
80 staff members.
How many of those are guides?
And I don't know. I mean, a lot of them come and want to work the food service because they want to go kayaking. Right. You know? And so, you know, they have different, some of them shoot pictures, do photography because they love to go, you know, see the out of doors. They love to be in the out of doors. And so we help them understand that here's the guidelines, and it is not wild and woolly in the sense of we follow the rules. That's it. We follow the rules. And so Dirk Kempthorne, which is why all of our flags are at half-mast, most wonderful guy in the world, a phenomenal politician who kept on looking at trying to figure out what was right. His daughter worked for us. His niece worked for us, you know, and this was before cell phones, and this was when he was governor of Idaho, and we had a reservation line, and in the guides lounge, in the employee lounge, we had their phone, and so we get a call from the Idaho governor's office, and we're going, oh, how can we help you? Well, you know, this is the governor's we're looking for. And I go, okay, well, this is a reservation line. And I said, let me give you another line to call. And so then Dirk called that line. I'm sorry, Dirk, but I have to follow the rules. And the rules are, even though you're the governor, you still need to call the number that we have for for our guide. So then I went and found his daughter. It was all fine. But anyway, we follow the rules. That's what we do.
Wow. With how many guides you have, how does forecasting work? That's got to be difficult. Like, how do you know how many people you're going to need on Saturday? Or
you know, I mean, and Kenneth, our oldest son, is the one that puts those aspects together, and it's guesswork. But he's been doing it his entire life. And, water levels, of course, that's huge. What's worse than low water is high water. One year, we couldn't get into the canyon until the 4th of July. I had someone from Florida call, say, well, I have a trip in the canyon. That's false advertising. I said, ma'am, this is nature. We're not in charge. When the snow melts and it's too much, it's not safe for you to be there. We'll give you a fun time. Right. But this is not Disneyland where we control the water, which, again, is what makes it so fun and unique. And so it's interesting the amount of East Coasters that are coming out to explore the West. And so they're kayakers, they're rafters, but they want to come see what it's like out west. And so we have a lot of people from back east. If you look at our license plates, Maine, all over. A lot from Atlanta, a lot from Georgia, from all over.
I did a trip on the Middle Fork of the Salmon this last summer, which was awesome. And they were telling us that last year they had some people that came on the river and they thought that the raft was on tracks. What? Yeah. So there's somebody made some T-shirts of a guy in a raft and it was on tracks, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And so that is what is so special and unique about the state we live in. And I so appreciate it and value it. And I think that the rest of Idaho, even those coming in, value those things where we can go out and enjoy and take a bike ride and take a hike and take your dog out and take your horse out and take your kids out and, however you choose to enjoy the out of doors is part of something that's important to those that come up here.
And people don't realize how much they need it until they're in it too.
Exactly.
And then they're hooked.
And then they're hooked. I mean, they get out there. It just quiets things down. Phones don't work, Although we do have a safety phone that goes up to Starling, so if there's something wrong going, we can, but that's a safety issue, But nobody sees it, and there's no talking, and there's no finding out who won the basketball game, football game, or any other game,
Yeah.
And
I mean, when you're out there, though, you really don't care.
no, you don't. And all of
You're
a
not even
sudden you
thinking
find
about
you
it.
don't care.
Right.
And you're going, wow, but look at that. There's a bear over there. Oh my gosh, look at the, and you see, you see the beauty that's out there. Now, today's world, I'll tell you something I think you think is funny, right? We all play with AI, if I could say that. So AI saw our description of the North Fork Cobarton trip, where we talk about seeing flora and fauna and the birds flying and all, and it understood it to think that page on our website was killing animals,
What?
killing wildlife. I mean, wild animals.
You were just talking about seeing
And
wildlife out.
Exactly, and that's what AI
It
interpreted.
flagged
it.
you.
And flagged us. And luckily, actually, it was one of my grandsons that plays with that kind of work. And he caught it, and he was able to fix it. But that just goes to show, don't ever just believe, as my husband calls it, chatty Cathy. You have
That's a
to
good
check
name.
it out. You
That's
have
a
to
good
check
name.
it out. And
That's
but
great.
we did get it fixed.
Yeah.
We did get it fixed.
So going back to one thing you just said about the water levels, and you can't anticipate how it's going to be from year to year. This year, especially with not a lot of snow, and is there any hesitations or?
Well, in our area of the Payette River and in this area, Cascade is at 97%. Deadwood is at 95%. Okay,
Full?
so they're full.
Okay, wow.
They're full. Okay, and so they have the Payette Watershed Council. It was one of the things that impressed me about Idaho when we first moved here. It was somebody who was into electricity, power, okay, because they used the river, and agriculture, because they need the river, and recreation. And there was one person from each of those entities, totally different hats, totally different way of seeing things. But guess what? They could sit down at a table and go, okay, what do you guys need? What do you guys need? How can we work this out together? Wow, novel idea. And of three totally different entities. And they still to this day get together, work it out so that they can release a little extra, like for the North Fork Championship, if they need just a few more CFS, or maybe, agriculture, needs this much more. And they work it out together. Novel idea. Yeah. And so this year we have plenty in our area. We have
Excellent.
plenty. Yeah. And so, and with the weather in the 80s right now, it could be a great season.
It's looking like
now,
a good season.
What's next on the list? Smoke. Mm-hmm. And that is almost worse to deal with.
Okay. Fire season.
Than the water levels.
Yeah.
But that's that's part
gotta
of,
roll with it.
Yeah.
As a business owner, how do you explain that to people? Like, for example, the people from the East Coast that are calling you angry that their trip is moved, and that how do you
Exactly.
combat that?
We say we're not in control of nature. The good thing about smoke is once you get down to the river, because of the water, it raises up. So once you're down there, it isn't anything like it is driving over Horseshoe Bend Hill, where you're looking and you can't even see the town. So it is much better. But if it's there, we will issue refunds. We won't take your money and say, sorry, Charlie, because that's not good customer service. And so, we will, do that. COVID, wasn't that a tough one? What's the right thing to do?
What was that like?
Oh, you didn't know what to do. So our season starts in May, right? Now all of a sudden going, what is this? What is this? What is this? We drug tested when it cost $100 every single one of our employees because we thought that was the right thing to do. We felt that, and at that time it cost us $6,000.
Right.
But we felt that was the right thing to do. So that's what we try to do. What is the right thing? And through God's grace, it's some years were tighter, other years were there was lots of people that came, and our season went through Labor Day, and it was fantastic. And so you just be careful, and you don't owe a lot of money. You don't take out huge debts and those type of things.
But being seasonal, that's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Big deal.
We work 110 days, all of us, every day. 7 days a week. 7 days a week. Starting at 7 a, and maybe the first one who gets to leave at 5 p. And then some of the other family members. We've got 3 different families that Cascade Raft and Kayak supports. 3 families plus Tom and myself, and so each of us have different areas of expertise. And when you can use the expertise of the different people, then it works together. So it is a lot of hard work. August is the toughest because our guide staff can be pretty fried by then too. June, going to work.
Yeah.
And so we can only put on the river how many people call.
And that's August is probably the busy. That's when everybody wants to be on the river, and then the guides are burnt out.
Really the middle of July, because August now school's starting way sooner.
Right.
So
oh yeah, that's true.
We'll wait and see. We also have a ropes course and zip line. So,
I was gonna. Yeah, you guys are much more than a rafting company now.
and we now have it organized to where we can be comfortable making sure that our guests have a good time, because they're on that by themselves.
Right.
Not by themselves.
Right.
There's a guide there, but in a raft, the raft guide can direct the raft. And when you're doing a zip line, you're on your own. But we had done some of this activity down in Chile, and when I went on it the first time, they didn't let you sit in the harness on a practice line. The guide sat in the harness on the practice line, and you watched him. So then we climbed to the top of this tree, like a big tall tree, and we're supposed to zip line across the river. And I looked at my husband, I said, I am sorry, I don't care, the owner of this company is here and all these other important people. I'm petrified. I'm getting out of this tree. I am not going to do this. Absolutely not. Well, what we learned from that, and my degree is in early childhood education.
Okay.
I think we're all 5-year-olds, all of us to this
At
day.
heart.
Exactly. And I said, we need to put these activities on the ground so you can sit in it yourself and go, oh, okay, I can trust this. I can trust this carabiner. I can trust holding on. I can trust this rickety thing. And do it on the ground, and then you have confidence to do it in the air. So that's what we built on our zip line and our ropes. We call it the ropes challenge. Mm-hmm. And so you can learn it first, and then you have the confidence to go up into the tree and do it. Designed by the guy in Chile from the first.
Oh, really?
First one. Yeah.
So how do you decide when you want to implement something new, like the ropes course? Like what's the deciding factor if we're going to try this?
We had wanted to have other experiences to do, and these were the ropes course zip line was, getting kind of interesting and all. And then because we saw it down in Chile and we said, oh, wow, this is super cool. And we were able to lease the property from the state and make it doable and teach and get the guides well trained and everything like that. We did a soft couple of years because we wanted to know what we were doing first. We weren't going to have people getting hurt. No, sorry.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
it isn't going to be, not on our watch. That doesn't happen because safety is our number one thing. Having a great time is right underneath it, but
Right.
if
You can't have a great time if you're
can't
not
have a
being
time if
safe.
you're not being safe.
Exactly.
You can't do that. And but now the ropes challenge, people of all ages are going up. You have to be tall enough and have enough. You have to be able to touch that line up there, and so there's a few parameters there. But the people come down and I said, oh, did you make it to the end? Oh, I did. And
There's
all.
that
So it's
excitement again at the
that
end.
individual, I did
Achievement, for
achievement. I did it. So
Yeah.
it kind of gives something else to do.
Especially for locals, it gives them something else
Yeah.
to come back for too.
Yeah.
Like we haven't tried that yet,
Yes, exactly. So just something else, something else fun to do.
sure. Yeah.
Something else
Well,
fun to do.
you keep talking about trust and safety and customer service and, being there for the people that you're serving. Do you think that any skills from the restaurant industry that you were previously in kind of transferred to what you're doing now?
I definitely. We feed all these people,
Right.
over full day trips, we feed them on the river, and then we've also do large groups and do catering for the large groups. So we've been able to put together utilize what we learned in the hospitality industry. And when we first did it, the facility didn't look like it does now. And I can remember a couple of the first groups that were, pretty big business guys and I would say, and we would have flank steak and salmon, and I go,
Yum.
are you enjoying
I
this
wanna
salmon?
go.
I
Yeah.
know. I said, I just caught it this morning out there,
Oh, my
and our guests
goodness.
would go, oh, because they relate salmon here, right?
Right.
And then by the afternoon they wait a sec, Debbie. I don't think that and okay, you're right. I didn't catch the salmon. Don't have that kind of time to do that. But we were 100% able to bring our hospitality experience and put it out where this is my uniform, and we have a beautiful deck, and we do our largest party was 700 people.
Wow.
And if any of you are in anybody listening on the restaurant business, we had them served in 48 minutes.
Wow.
Flank steak and chicken breasts. That's applying what you learned in school out there, and just punch the numbers yourself. You can imagine what
Takes
that
a
did.
lot of preparation.
Takes a lot
and
of
a lot of
it's-
planning.
and a lot of planning, and a marker set, and you go, and then you do it, and you just, yes, we did it. And so you can apply that hospitality, making people feel good, in the
Takes
outer
your
doors,
whole
on
team
all
being
aspects.
on the
whole
same
team,
page,
everything.
wanting the same shared goal.
Yes,
That's excellent.
definitely.
And something that really makes Cascade Raft and Kayak unique is everybody that works there is unapologetically themselves, and that's what makes it so special. And
Yes. Well, we want them to bring forth who and what they are, so that they can make our guests feel great.
Especially
and-
if you have guests from all over, different
Oh my gosh,
backgrounds. You want
yeah.
to make everybody feel welcome.
yeah.
And
Definitely. I mean, we had two twin sisters at 82 years old coming rafting, sat in the front of the raft, and I mean, it was crazy. I mean, and then you have little kids, 4-year-old kids. The biggest financial tip that was given to a guide, $500. So this man shows up and says, I want to go fishing. do you have a raft? And we said, well, yeah, but you'd need to have a raft guide and then one other person to help paddle, and that's fine. Okay, we can get that organized. This is lots of years ago. We can get that organized. And mind you, when people show up, they're in shorts and a T-shirt. We don't know who you are, nor do we care who you are.
Right.
And so so we took him up, and the guy that was their guide started talking, and he could tell right away that this guy did not want to talk. So Wing just was quiet the whole day. Quiet, didn't say a word. And they got back to the raft center, the welcome center, and the guy, you did exactly what I needed. $500 he gave him. Come to find out, big CEO of American Express.
Oh, wow.
Now, we didn't know.
Nice.
You know, we didn't know. And he so loved it. And then he brought his daughter's high school graduation. And, you know, I mean, it one thing extended.
There's that word of mouth again.
You know, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't know who and what it is, nor does it matter, because every person you treat wonderfully the same. We had a one time where we had every governor and their wife from the United States. We had a governor's conference here, something like that. And, you know, you'd look at some of the Secret Service that got their white shirt on with the collar and then their khaki pants, and I'm going,
loosen up, man.
yeah, I know. You're going, you really think nobody knows who you are, you know, and stuff like that. And so, you know, so you get to have exposure to people from all over. You know, back to that Nike story, we had two kids. I'm sorry, they're all kids, but two kids with a master's degree in business. And they didn't have a job, but they were raft guiding for us. And who was on the trip? Nike. Both of those kids, raft guides, got jobs at Nike, and I think they're still there. I think they still work for Nike.
Wow.
So you never know
who
good
you're
networking.
Meet.
Really good networking.
And the networking and who you might find on that raft trip, you know. And so, you know, we take, you know, Indian.
Who are some of the biggest names that have come down?
If you haven't signed an NDA.
Yeah, you know, we've had a bunch of Hollywood come up, okay, and so we get to gently share. It doesn't matter who. You know, I mean, nobody cares about what
doesn't
TV
matter
show you're on.
What your name is.
You know,
we're all here for the
we're
same
all
experience.
here for the same experience.
Have a good
and this
time.
And that. Yeah, you know, they didn't want to sign the waiver because it said we use their picture. We said, you may cross that out. We don't care about using. We want you to have a fun time and just be real like everybody else. So, you know, we've had a lot of Hollywood. We've had a lot of political people that you know that come out. We don't. You know, we just want to share the Idaho out of doors. And by doing that, whatever job you do, if you're a politician, you're probably going to do a better job at it. If you come out and really see what nature is all about, you'll probably make a better decisionary process. You know?
Take some time away from everything else. Digest. Think about what's important.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, we've had, and I didn't want to go into who all of the people we have.
No, it's fine.
I'm
just more wondering, like, preparing for it. Like, are you like, okay, this person's coming, we got to keep it on the down low, or is it just, yeah, okay, they're here, we're going to treat you like everybody else?
Everybody's got T-shirts and shorts, or
great.
long pants, and you know, and okay, here's your complimentary locker, and you know, please put your keys and, you know, all of your things here, because Old Man River loves keys. Just 3 days ago, there was a gal in her in 25, 30 or whatever, and she accidentally, her keys were on a carabiner. She put them on her belt and went up and did the ropes course. And when she was up at the ropes course, it fell off. And she came back down to the raft company with the shuttle, and she couldn't find her keys. And so Tom said, I'll drive you back. You know, I mean, what do? You're gonna help this gal.
You have to.
You have to. Well, you don't have to in a lot of things, but we have to. Yeah. You know, here, call an Uber. You know, go solve it yourself.
True.
I'm busy. No. You're our guests. We will do everything we can to help solve it. So Tom drove her all the way back up and then looked around. Golly gee, they found her keys.
Wow.
And
that's
and
lucky.
Tom
Yeah.
said, if we didn't find your keys, I would have driven you to Napa. Really? Sure, I would have. I'm not going to leave you stranded. I would have, but that's what we do. We solve what is in front.
Yeah.
and
Unmatched
make it fun.
customer service.
Yes,
That's what that
sounds
is.
like it.
Customer service.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's excellent.
Exactly. And the outdoor industry is growing.
Mm-hmm.
Is growing, growing, growing. So you can utilize your knowledge and information from hospitality, from business, from marketing, and just apply it.
Mm-hmm.
And your uniform again is a t-shirt, in the out of doors,
Yeah.
and tennis shoes.
Yeah. That's definitely true. Not a lot of businesses, though, make it past the first 5 years, especially in the tourism industry and the hospitality industry. So what you have to say is excellent. And I'm just curious if there was a time besides, when you guys were doing the substitute teaching and doing the things on the side that, you were like, I don't know, was this a good decision? Are we going to make it? Like, what did you do to push to where you are now?
Determination.
Yeah.
No
No other option. You
other
had to
option.
make it.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to solve it. We'll figure out, what the next step is.
Mm-hmm.
And again, by God's grace, it came together. We really our staff, our guide staff, and not just guide staff, our staff altogether, they all have a love for the out of doors. Okay, and so they're attracted to us to utilize their love for the out of doors. And this is something kind of a little bit fascinating. I believe we're up to, and I really should have started a photograph book, but I think we're up to 38 marriages from people that met by working with us.
Wow.
And guess what?
And those are only the ones you know of.
And those are only the ones we know of. And and out of those, they are all still together. There is only one that was a nurse and an older guy a long time ago. And they didn't make it. All of the rest,
Wow.
because they found their mate in life because of the enjoyment of loving the out of doors.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about being in the backcountry, that intimacy, you get to know people on a level that you just don't get.
Exactly. And so, we love getting to to know our staff and, find out, what their widgets are, and then help bring it forward so that they can utilize their strengths and their widgets to make a living.
Right.
To make a living, so that you, make a living in the out of doors. Pretty fun.
Beautiful.
What does a day-to-day look like at Cascade? First thing in the morning. I'm assuming you guys got to prep all your food for the trips.
Yeah, we do that the day before.
Okay.
And we have par stocks, we have lists. If there's 5 people on a full day trip, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and how to kind of reduce how many apples you send, how many, if there's a lot of kids on it, extra peanut butter and jelly, So, our sandwiches, we make all of our pasta salad fresh ourselves and all.
Yum.
And it's pretty good. And so, so the first meet is at 7:30 in the morning for the 8:30, 9 o'clock trip, and then we have actually 9 o'clock trips, 9:30, 11 half day trips, 11:30, 1:30, 3:30, 5 o'clock on a busy day. Those are the half day trips, and you just got to be on your toes. And when they're coming back, you pick up trash. That's what I do a lot of. pick up trash, make sure the trash cans are empty. The physical setting is very, very important. And a foot bath to wash off their feet, a place for them we allow people to come bring their own lunch. Because one of our goals from the very beginning was that a family of 4 could afford to a mom and dad can take their 2 kids rafting. And that was one of our parameters at Cascade Raft and Kayak. And so if they wanted to bring their lunch, you bet. I'm not going to, you can't bring your igloo onto my grass. No, if if there's a group that wants to bring it, that's fine. That's fine. If they want to buy a sandwich in the cafe, we can do that too, and all. But we try to make it as I was going to say user friendly, but it's just
inviting,
greeting people when they arrive.
Inclusive.
That's the most important thing. Is knowing where to park, having parking, and providing clothes to keep them warm, or turning the sprinklers on if it's hot so the kids can run through them. Just thinking of fun things for them to do. We do take photos of the trips so that people can see their pictures. That's always it's not a huge money maker in that sense, but
it's important though.
It's important. Makes our guests feel important. Yeah. Having milkshakes make them feel important. Having some beer around. They might choose to enjoy that, or they might not. That's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah. My sister told me you're the best greeter. She said that's like her main role.
I love it. I love talking, and I love getting to see people and get to know about them and find out something interesting about them, and get down on the level of a 5-year-old and you're gonna have so much fun. Oh my gosh, I love your sandals. Just helping them feel comfortable, whether they're 5 or 45 or 70. Because a lot of the older crowd, they're, can I do this? Yeah, you can. Trust me. I am not a swimmer. I am not. I hardly even know. I'm not a paddler. I ride horses. That's my passion.
You know your lane.
And so I say, no, you can do this. Trust me. You can do. We haven't lost anyone yet, and we're not starting with you.
Exactly.
And so that was one of my big marketing things at the beginning, was to say, hey, we have a level of whitewater for everybody. Because, and that was part of our goal as we started our company 40 years ago, was saying, hey, this is fun for everybody, just not the wild and woolly. Yeah, we got wild and woolly, but we also have splash and just enjoy, And so.
What do you think separates you guys from like a Bear Valley?
Each of us, all of us have our gifts, and we are very thankful that we have a property that has parking, that we are in control.
You have a great spot. Great spot.
Thank you. So many people don't know what is behind there. Okay, so a fun story, maybe, if we have time.
Yes.
Okay, a fun story. So back in the day, I was working with Mrs. Simplot with horses, and Mr. Simplot and Mrs. Simplot were taking their horses up to McCall, and they stop and pull in where the and this was like 15 years ago, a long time ago. Pull in where the buses go. Well, I'm not going to tell Mr. Simplot, this is not where you can park. He wanted to go get an ice cream. That is fine. So he's up there, and he goes, "Little lady, is this your property?" "Yes, sir, it is." "Little lady, are these your buses?" "Yes, sir, they are." "Little lady, where does the property start?" "Well, up there at that tree, down there to that tree." "Little lady, this looks like a fine operation. Would you like a partner?" Oh my gosh.
Wow.
What do you say to Mr. Simplot, who says, "Do you want a partner?" Thankfully, I thought quickly, and I said, "Well, Mr. Simplot, I am honored that you would like to be a partner. But like your company, you're a family-owned business, and we are likewise. If that should change, you'll be the first man I called." I nailed it. Okay, little lady, you call me if you want it, and stuff.
That's
and so,
excellent.
yeah.
That's a great answer. I don't know what I would have said.
I know. What do you
That was
say
quick
in those,
thinking.
I mean, we have had people offer us huge money, and we go, what else would we do? What else would we do? Nothing. We love what we do. So, no, sorry.
That's what makes it so special.
Yeah. And I mean, deals that were Tamarack
Yeah.
signed on they came in.
Oh, they
and met.
did?
Yeah. The entity in Garden Valley that kind of had a few people that took some money. Yeah. All of that was signed on our deck. I mean, we've had more people do take out on rafts so they can interact and talk and be casual and simple, and close deals on our Riverside deck. And how do I know? I'm watering, and I just and not that I'm snooping.
No,
but I'm
just around.
Yeah,
I'm
you just happen to be around.
And then they'll ask me a question, and I'll, help them with the answer. So that's what I do, and that's what I love to do, and so it's fun.
And for anybody that doesn't know, you guys actually take out at the lodge, which is so convenient, at least for some of your trips, not all.
Yeah, for a huge chunk of our most popular ones, and that makes it very. Well, again, was Tom's idea. He said, and when he saw the property, and he goes, we got to buy this, and I'm going, what? I mean, it was an old Mexican restaurant that had been closed for 3 years.
It was a Mexican restaurant?
An old Mexican.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you haven't had many rats or underneath a Mexican restaurant that had been closed for 3 years.
I don't want to know.
I know, you don't want to know. And so, and we have books at the Raft Company that show pictures of what it originally looked like. And I kind of, one of them is entitled 25 Years on the River. I kind of put those together so that our family, our grandkids, and others that are interested would always remember those.
Where you came from. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a beautiful property now.
Yeah.
You guys have put a lot of work into it.
That we have. And I just fertilized the grass, just yesterday. 80 degrees, got to get the water going.
What's the process for hiring people? What kind of person are you looking for?
Someone who is personable, wants to work, and wants to learn, wants to be a part of the team. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to be a team. We have to work together because the group that is going on this raft trip or that raft trip, there is no employee who is better than another employee. You might have more skill in one area, but that doesn't make you better.
We're all working towards the same thing.
Yeah. And when we started, there were no women raft guides at all.
Wow.
And we said, this is baloney. Women can
change that.
Yeah. And so I think we have more women raft guides than any business in Idaho, or it could be. I don't go do the stats, but
right.
I mean, yeah, gals can do it great. It's so it's people that love the out of doors, will want to be a team player, and will take guidance in order to be a team player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Take guidance that, to be a team player. And
ready to learn, ready to work.
Yeah. Ready to work. Got to follow the rules. A lot of the rules are rules that we didn't set up. I mean, we have to do the food service stuff, and just like you do in hospitality here. Now, interestingly enough, and that's one fascinating thing about the outfitting industry, is I don't know, maybe they're going to hear about that in at the entity that says what you do in your food service. But out on the river, there is a standard for outfitters. Mm-hmm. That's cool. Mm-hmm. We can cook in DOs, Dutch ovens, right? And do those type of things. And so you have a bit of freedom as far as that goes. Now, to us, we utilize, keeping our product cold, keeping our product rotated, making sure that everything is super, super healthy and everything like that. So, Don't get me wrong. We don't
Right.
use a different standard, but it is interesting because, for hunting and fishing, if you're, and 3-day trips and stuff like that, you're out on the river. It's different,
Different type of life.
exactly.
Yeah, I like
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a industry-ish question.
Okay.
Is there any advice or like general business rule or something that you've heard throughout working not only in this industry but in the restaurant industry that you don't agree with, that you've taken and kind of changed into how you're running your business today?
So something that things were done in the industry that,
You disagree with or have changed?
yeah, well, for sure,
Yeah.
the type of impression of who and what raft guides were.
Okay.
Okay, because they were wild things, and I'll just leave it there. They were wild things.
Yeah, there's
And-
definitely a stigma for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
and we
was.
said, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We will treat each other with respect. We're not going down that road. And so that was a total change in the industry of outfitting and rafting. Totally. As far as food service goes, we've always applied what we learned, because if somebody gets sick, that sucks. That is not good. So we don't want our turkey that goes out on a raft trip to get warm and
Right.
then cause someone to not feel good. No, that is no good.
Wrecks
so
the trip.
exactly. So as far as that goes, but just the entity of when we started in this business, it was a directive that wasn't what we were going to do. That ain't us.
Right.
That ain't us. I mean, we had. I think I can tell this story. We were we had a kid from Alaska, and he was a rafting support, and we had a couple of older guides, and it was the kayak support guy from Alaska's last day, and they wanted him to do the 30-foot waterfall on my time. They're working for me. I mean, working for Cascade Raft.
Right.
He is the safety for Cascade Raft. But these older guys said, "Oh, come on, you can do it. You can do it." And again, this is a little bit of the old school. "Oh, you can do it." Not the old school, a little bit of the old industry. And so they all had their cameras. And so the kid did, and the kid was fine. Nobody got hurt. They get back to the raft company. And Tren, my youngest, he was probably about maybe 11 or 12. Okay, and everybody else was out on the water. All the rest of the family was out on the water. And they got back, and of course I found out about it. And I went to Tren. I said, "Tren, should I really be angry right now?" He goes, "Yes, Mom, you should." And I said, "This was really wrong, correct? Not only is this kid life endangered, but our guests, it could have gone south, right?
He's
it could
there
have
to
gone
make
south.
sure everybody else is safe.
This is not exactly.
Not the time.
And so I walked into where the employees were, and these were hot shots. And I looked them right in the eye, and I said, "This is not right. This will not happen. This is not right." And I said, "We're done." And so that was
the end of that.
Good for you.
Never happened again.
nope. Sorry.
Yeah.
And
You got to stick to that standard, especially if
gotta
there's other
in
people's safety on the line. Exactly.
Safety. This is not about me being a wild thing, and getting pictures of it and then go selling or anything like that. No, it's about our guest.
Yeah.
It's about our guest.
Yeah.
Always about our guest. But that's what makes it fun.
Exactly.
And we wouldn't have that was long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have, that wouldn't happen. The guidelines are very, very clear now, and everybody understands them. Very, very
Expectations are
clearly.
very well understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
Well, what opportunities are there for a student that maybe is majoring in finance or accounting and they wanted to get involved in this industry specifically?
Business student.
Or a business, yeah.
Business student. I mean, on the financial end of things, oh my goodness, you figure out insurance. You figure out how and where and when. I mean, auto insurance has totally changed. Now we have to have every employee, we have to look at their entire driving record. Okay. And then we have to, and so the amount of paperwork that is required now, oh man, easily could take a full person. If you were in finance, you wanted to come see it, come hang out, come watch, do an internship, follow, watch, see, as to how it works, because it's the same finance that works in other businesses, but it's just kind of fun because this is your uniform.
Right. You get to wear a t-shirt to work.
You get to wear a t-shirt to work, Same in the restaurant end of it. Work in the cafe. We still have the same par stocks. We still have the same standard of food catering. Can you get it that organized? Can you be that comfortable? Market set, here we go. And so, there are photography.
Right.
CDL bus driver. You want a good job? CDL bus driver.
Yeah, get your CDL. Yep.
Oh my gosh, you could have a zillion
Yep, you'll
jobs.
always have work.
Yeah, always have work. Always have work. But you can drive the bus up and take pictures coming down. Pretty fun.
Sounds like a pretty good life to me.
Pretty fun, yeah. And then while you're out there, take a picture of the birds that are together and dancing up, and that bear that's across over there, and the chipmunk that is coming through. So, and again, be a part of a team. And I think that's one of the things that attract people to our company is to be a part of a team and feeling like a team, and we respect each and every one equally.
Learning how to interact with people, it's a good life skill. Communication, it's huge. Huge.
When someone does something that, wait a second, I that doesn't make sense to me. Okay, let's talk it out.
Yeah.
Let's talk it out. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out what the solution is. What's the best answer? And
one step at a
life.
time. One problem at a time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Fix what's in front
So,
of
I think you one could apply it to so many industries that idea and it's just good business.
Yeah.
It's just good living.
I was talking to a pretty major banker here in the Treasure Valley, and he was saying when they hired people, they were looking to make sure that they had some type of hospitality experience, whether it was restaurants or something in outfitting, but just dealing with people.
Dealing with people.
Which had nothing to do with the actual, with banking, but they
but
wanted
that's
that.
where you
learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where you learn to put a smile on your face. And would you, what could I get you? Would you like some water? Would you like, and everything like that. So that is where the hospitality industry is such a base foundation of what you learn there. And, I think, I know even high tech needs it.
Right.
Even high tech.
Every industry.
Every industry needs it. They're finding it more and more and more. And so hospitality is the greatest.
Yeah. So, Debbi, I'm 22. If you could sit down with your 22-year-old self and tell her something, give her some advice, what would you say?
At 22, you have many options. Look at them carefully and see if they fit goals where you would like to go.
Okay.
And you have plenty of time to get there. At 22 right now, you have so many choices. it will take you, for most 22-year-olds, it's going to take you a while to figure it out. Maybe you need to travel. Maybe you need to go see things. Maybe you need to, go experience.
Go rafting.
Go rafting. Yeah, go rafting. But to look at where your goals are, and then pick things that will teach you how to get there closer.
Okay.
How to get there closer. I would have never, ever imagined that a degree in early childhood education, so I could be a teacher, I could apply to the industry that I am. But I have, and I did, but it's one step at a time.
Yeah.
Should I go this way, that way? What's the right thing? And even if you make a wrong choice, oops.
You still learn from it.
You still learn from it. Oops, that wasn't what I was intending. So I'm gonna zip this direction.
Yeah. At the same time, we were so blessed to have choices, though.
Yes.
Especially in this country. In a lot of places, you don't get choices.
You don't get choices. And I think that's a little bit of what today's culture doesn't value as much as I would value at 22, knowing what I know now, way beyond 22. Because before, you worked in an industry in the town you grew up in, and maybe you became a teacher, maybe, and that was your two choices. We have so many options, and no judgment of those options. There is no judgment of those options. That's different than 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, where you were judged by those options. Now, there are so many things. Back to the Kempthornes, okay? Mrs. Kempthorne put together a program called Dress for Success. We worked a lot with her. Dress for Success was when we women couldn't get there were many women, young women, who couldn't get jobs because they didn't have the right outfit on. They couldn't have money to buy a professional outfit. And so Patricia Kempthorne came up with this idea that she would make a nonprofit here in town in Boise called Dress for Success. Go Google it. And we got money, we got gals to have clothes so that they could go to an interview and not be judged negatively because they didn't
based on their appearance. Yeah. Right?
The professional, and you guys don't get judged like that anymore. Y'all can have long hair, short hair. You can have hair on your face. You have a whole lot more flex. So you're not being judged. And to appreciate that in our world and in our culture.
So true.
It's a lot.
It does seem like we definitely dress down compared to previous generations.
Yeah. There's
even in a professional environment, our generation especially dresses down, which I am all for.
That's fine. It's okay because really, we all put our pants on one leg at a time.
At the end of the day. Or at the beginning of the day, I guess.
Or at the beginning
I
of the
say.
day. Yeah. And all. And so, now, I would say there is one thing that I think is really, really valuable. That's a name tag. Okay? And I learned this from the hospitality industry, from both the restaurant and hotels, and I applied it to that. And I said, you guys, the guides, the guests won't always remember who their raft guide's name was because you could tell it to them, but they might remember it or they may not. And it took me a little bit of time to get it across the goal line, but we now have their name on their life jacket so that the guest sitting there can go, hey, Ben, and know who you are, okay? And so I would say I'm going to do the outdoor, the Idaho Outdoor Expo tomorrow. And in my box, I have, I'll wear my Cascade name tag. But you need to know what my name is, just because, and else. So I think a name tag is
It makes you so much more approachable, too.
It makes you so much
more
more
How many times do you
approachable.
not talk to somebody because you can't
You
remember
don't
their name?
remember their name.
Luckily, if you're a guy, you can just say, hey, dude.
Exactly.
You can get away with that.
Yeah. But so I think that's something from the hospitality industry that could, go.
Oh, you could apply that to any industry.
Any industry, to be identifiable. And so you know who they are. And yeah.
So what's next for Cascade?
We, Tom and I are getting older. We still love what we do, but the next crowd has got to work on, on making it happen the next way.
Yeah.
And so we have, 3 sons, daughter-in-laws, 9 grandkids, oldest 25, youngest 16. I don't know.
How many of them are working for Cascade?
They have all worked.
At one point,
at one point or another. They have all learned the skills we're talking about at an early age at Cascade. Many of them are applying them in other areas, and that's fine. You need to go out and explore, When we've got one that guy has a degree in engineering. We got, one that's graduating from American University, degree in finance. And so we've got a lot of different. And will they apply it to the river? I don't know, and they don't have to. But they can apply the skills that they learned alongside the river of guests and putting a smile on our face and making it about them, having a safe, good time to anything they do. So I don't know what the next chapter is.
As long as it involves those things.
As long as it involves those things, yeah. And so, and like I said, Tom and I I'm still the Walmart greeter. And I can still walk.
That's an important job.
Yeah.
It is.
Probably the most important job, really.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So where can people learn more about you guys and book a trip?
Go check us out on the website, cascaderaft.com and stop by, say hi, look at it, say, oh my gosh, I heard your podcast, and I'll walk you around. I'll show you what what it looks like. You have to identify because everyone is going to be in a casual outfit, me too. But I'll have my name tag on, look for Debbi,
exactly.
and stop by and just see. That might give you ideas. That might give you ideas. Coreopsis, the most beautiful flower I have a Coreopsis forest that goes down this hill because I started with 7 or 8 and then more and more and more and more and more.
Spread.
What is a Coreopsis?
I know. You got to come see it.
Let's go check it out.
What is the Idaho State flower? Syringa.
It's the Idaho State flower.
You don't know the Idaho State
know.
flower, Syringa.
No.
It's the white one that's blooming right now. Smells like orange.
Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh,
okay.
yes. Yeah.
We have to go check it out.
It's the Idaho State horse, Appaloosa. And if you see postcards, it's an Appaloosa I had back in the day, and all. So anyway, there's so many fun things to get to know about Idaho that are unique. Trent is doing on our Instagram a history post every other week about what it looked like at Horseshoe Bend in the 80s.
Oh, that's actually, I think I've seen those. He's the one
yeah.
posting those? Those are awesome.
Them. Yeah. And you're going, really?
Yeah.
Payette, a French dude. A lot of people can't even say that word, and where did that come from and how did it start and all of those type of things.
Oh,
so
that's really
history
cool.
Is fun.
It is.
Yeah,
that's
history
awesome.
Is fun. And so I don't know what the next chapter is. I'm just excited for it.
We're just going with the
I like
flow.
that.
Go with the flow.
Pun intended.
Go, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
My salutation on my emails and things like that is something we, on a raft, all forward.
I noticed that on your email. I got a laugh out of that.
That's
That was good.
all forward.
That was good.
And so that's my salutation, and we'll see. We'll see.
I like it. I have one last question for you.
Yes.
So looking back from where you are today, how much of this progress do you attribute to luck? Do you attribute to hard work? Just things falling into place, the right people being at the right place at the right time?
All of those.
All of those. Mixture.
All of those. I mean, You can't always make the right decision. When you
Yeah.
make a wrong decision, oops, that wasn't the direction. Let's move this direction. Yeah, there is some luck, just some blessings that comes through. But no matter what, hard work.
Yeah.
You have to love work and love what you're doing, because if you're going to do a half a job,
Why do it?
why do it? Find something you want to do. And if you earn, okay, well, and this is me, but I don't want to earn that much money. I don't know that I'd be that good of a person. I'm good with just earning and being a little hungry. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. And we travel the world, and we do what we love doing, and we've raised our kids. We've got 9 grandkids, all of them a blessing, all of them totally different. And we did fine with how much we made. And our, I don't want that much money. No, thank
Who
you.
needs it?
Who needs it?
Sounds like you've lived a very fulfilling life.
Thank
Yes.
you.
For sure.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, if you guys have never gone rafting on the Payette, you need to. I highly recommend it. Debbie, thank
Go
you
see
for
Debbie.
joining
You're
us.
welcome.
This
Come
was
say
awesome.
hi.
Yes. Thank
Come
you
say
so
hi.
much.
You bet. Thank you.
you.
This was fun.